Well, this is the day the Lord has made, and we're here to rejoice and be glad in it. I want to thank you for logging on and tuning in to the Hope TV today. And I really want to thank you for your incredible support of the Hope TV. As you know, our first broadcast was on March 19th, and it was part of our Pastoring in a Pandemic series and show. And since that time, we've come from one show to now we have 18 flagship shows that we're presenting through the Hope TV. And what an incredible opportunity that now each broadcast is reaching between 50 to 100,000 people, literally all over the world. And I'm grateful to you for your support. And so those of you who've tuned in, whether you're watching from Apple TV, Roku TV, now we want to welcome our new audience that's watching via Twitch. I never heard of Twitch until recently, but thank God for those of you who are watching via Twitch, as well as YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Periscope. Some of you are viewing through the House of Hope ATL website or the edoismith.org website, and others are watching through our House of Hope Atlanta app. So whatever medium that you're utilizing to tune in to the Hope TV, we're grateful, and I appreciate you for your wonderful comments and your suggestions and your support. It is our aim here to bring you content that deals with family, faith, finances, fitness, fellowship, and then interject a little fun. And I hope by the process of you engaging with us that you've been inspired and you've been encouraged. We believe in bringing holistic content that also blesses us spiritually, physically, and emotionally. And so we're dealing with civic engagement, finances, mental health issues, you name it. We're trying to present it here, comprehensive media platform. So thank you so very much for your support of the Hope TV. And if you're watching right now, why don't you drop us a line? Let us know where you're watching from, the city and the state from which you're viewing. It's very important to us. And also the different country that you may be viewing from. We're blessed to be an international platform. People literally from all over the world are tuning into the Hope TV, and I appreciate you for your support. While you're watching, if your platform allows you, why don't you consider subscribing to the page? And if you've not just subscribed to the Hope TV, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a new YouTube channel entitled the Hope TV. Go to it, subscribe to it. You can like us on all things social media. We have the Hope TV on Facebook and also the Hope TV on Instagram and Twitter. So if you've not yet followed us, please do so right now on all things social media. You also want you to send that link to somebody that you know can be inspired by some positive content through this pandemic. If you're not yet following the church, you also can follow the church at the House of Hope Atlanta and the House of Hope ATL on Twitter and on Instagram, House of Hope Atlanta on YouTube and Facebook. Follow right now. And also, if you want to follow me, Smith on Instagram, Smith on Twitter, the official page of Pastor Smith on Facebook, and also Dr. Smith on YouTube. So thank you for all you're doing. I'm very excited to present another broadcast of the Hope TV. We're excited today because this particular broadcast is arguably one of our favorite and most viewed telecasts. You know, sometimes in secular and in sacred communities, over the past 5 years or so, there's been such a huge emphasis on investing in our millennials in terms of how we market to millennials and how, in terms of how we keep millennials involved and abreast, whether it be something that's ecclesial, whether it's something that's political. A whole lot of conversation about trying to understand the millennial generation and Generation Y, Generation Z, whatever you want to call it, and a whole lot of back and forth, a whole lot of conversations. But there is a segment of our population that sometimes is underserved, and that's that group that's late 30s or those who are over 40. And we want to kind of talk about that, even though that group right around 40, those who were born before 1980. So some are right on that line, 38, but we call it our grown and sexy. Those who are a little more mature, who lived a little longer, a little more seasoned than an 18 or 19-year-old. So this broadcast is called Grown and Sexy. And our team went back and forth about that name. Should we call it Grown and Sexy? We wanted something that would be unique and be distinctive to this particular group. And obviously the right decision was made because the Grown and Sexy broadcast is a favorite of the Hope TV, and to be honest with you, is one of my personal favorites. And so I'm excited about moderating these conversations. So call Lottie Dottie everybody let them know that Grown and Sexy of the Hope TV is on the airways right now. I'm also excited that we have 4 incredible guests who are going to be sharing with us on today. 4 amazing individuals who have a lot to offer us here today. One such individual hails from Vincent, Alabama. And she was born and raised in Vincent, later moved to Montgomery, Alabama, where she was in school there at Alabama State. And it was there in that context that her life's journey and purpose and gifts began to develop and foment in a real way. And she began to work at Parisians there in Montgomery and began to develop a love for the whole beauty industry. And working from Parisian, she later moved to Atlanta and has worked in Phipps Plaza and now works in Nordstrom's, and she's been hailed as one of the top salespersons in the Chanel organization. Her departments in which she leads and manages is always at the very top in terms of sales in the entire company. She's been awarded award after award after award. It makes us so proud because she's making tremendous inroads. Recently, her sales team, which is all American, was ranked #2 in terms of sales counters in the entire nation in terms of Chanel. So she's a she's a boss in her own right, and has an incredible spirit, an incredible story, and I'm excited she's here with us. I want to thank for Deidre Hamilton, who's our first guest. How you doing, sister?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. Glad to have you here with us today. I appreciate you being here. And
Yes.
our second guest, she is a favorite of our show. This is her. She's returning back to our show, and we're excited to have her here. She's raised as an Army brat, traveled literally all over the world, has lived every place you can imagine, and has just been gifted not just to see the world in terms of travel as a military brat, but also she's been gifted in terms of song. She works in the area of public relations and marketing. She recently worked in Atlanta and she's in charge of all the press and all the PR and communications for Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom here in Atlanta. And now she works with one of the leading philanthropic organizations there in the District of Columbia. And she's very, very active in our community, very civically engaged, and travels the world doing PR and communications, and just is a guru in her own right. And we're glad to have her back here on Grown and Sexy, Miss Nikki Foreman. What's going on, Nikki? How are you?
I'm great. How are you tonight, Pastor?
Great. Glad to have you here with us. I appreciate you being back. Our next guest is here, and this is his first time on the show. He is, I think, a native of Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, but he's been in Atlanta for a while as an accountant. And I was amazed to know that he actually was an accountant because I got familiar with him through photography. He's one of the top photographers in the Southeast, in my opinion, and is always frequenting red carpets or prestigious events, banquets downtown. And yet through all of that busy schedule as an accountant and as a major photographer, he still takes time to make sure his church is taken care of. He's over our photography ministry at our church. As he's an accountant, as he travels in photography, he's also a father. And recently his son graduated from Georgia Tech and is pursuing his master's, I think, at the University of Chicago. So just a very smart family. And I would try to give the son's mother the credit, but he's a smart guy too. He's a smart single guy. He works in modeling now. He's just an all-around good guy. And I'm glad to have him here with us. Marcus Ingram. What's up, my brother? How are you, my friend?
I'm all right. Thank you.
Good to see you, buddy. Glad to have you part. And then last but not least, we have a return guest. He's from Miami, Florida. We're not going to hold that against him. You know, I have my take about Florida. I think a whole lot started messing up with Florida when they stole the election from Al Gore, but don't give me my soapbox. In spite of that, he's still a good guy. He's been a part of my ministry now 25 years plus. I met him when he was a student at Fort Valley State University. This was probably in the mid-90s. And he's a graduate of Fort Valley State University, HBCU there. And he received his bachelor's and his master's degree from Fort Valley, both in education, middle grades. Since gone on and completed his doctorate in education, educational leadership. He's taught in Middle Georgia. Now he teaches in the Gwinnett County school system here. He's one of the deacons of our church. He is a divorcee, but he has been one of my most faithful members of our ministry and supporters for over 25 years. My family loves him. He's been right there for us, deacon in our church, and a great guy, has a heart of gold. He is a Miami Dolphins fan. That's unfortunate, but nobody's perfect but Jesus. Other than that, he's a good guy. I'm so glad to have that with us today, Dr. Ron Lester. What's up, my brother? How you doing?
Doing good, Pastor. How you doing? Thank you for having me again. I'm going to enjoy this episode.
Well, outstanding. We're great to have you. So welcome everybody back to Grown and Sexy. I appreciate you being a part. And, I always believe sometimes, that it's chivalrous to start with the ladies. But I want to do something different just to establish a different context today, and then we'll begin moving. I'm doing this based on some conversations we had earlier prior to us going live. I want to start with you, Marcus. Marcus, you are a young man who has been blessed with a lot of gifts, a lot of talents, and you're working here as an accountant in Atlanta. You're a photographer. You're all over the place. You make sure the church is taken care of, but you also have done an excellent job with your son, who's a recent graduate of Georgia Tech. I think he's pursuing his master's now at the University of Chicago. If I'm correct, if I'm mistaken, please do so when I go to you. But I want to talk to you because I want to know, how is it in terms of the dating scene, being a single father, working in ministry, working on your job, and also having your entrepreneurial spirit in terms of your photography. How are you able to navigate all those different entities, and how have those entities impacted your dating life? I know that's a lot, but just kind of unpack it the best way you can. So tell me about where you are, sir.
Okay, yeah, it is a lot. But right now, my son is at the University of Chicago, and he's working on his PhD program. So he's a
PhD.
mathematician. So that's what he wants to do. He wants to be a professor for math. And he don't want to teach young adults. He want to teach, well, not young adults, but kids. He want to teach them college. So, but you have to understand, I was married with his mom, and we got divorced when he was 2. So ever since then, it was tough dating, of course, because I didn't want to bring anybody in the house around my son. And then the other thing was, it was the difficult of my son getting along with whoever I'm with. So it was difficult. But because I didn't have them like full time, I did have weekends where I could date and meet other people. So it was a couple of young ladies I did meet during that time period that it was pretty steady. But I didn't bring in a lot of women, while I had my son. So, but it was tough. But now that he's in school and I have a little bit more free time, I got some time to find my lucky, woman. So I'm just waiting.
I got you. That's a great. I like hearing that because typically, you hear a lot of women say, if they have children and they want to date but they have small children, typically you hear a woman say, single mom, I want to be very selective about not bringing anybody around my son, particularly because the mother typically has, primary custody, or the majority of custody is
Right.
spent with the mother typically. So I want to ask you a question. I want to kind of come back at you with this question.
Okay.
So what made you have that perspective, even as a father, that you did not want to have your son around different women, even though you didn't have primary custody? What gave you that mentality?
Well, I guess because I grew up in a household where I had my dad and my mom in the house, and I just wanted to make sure that if I was going to choose someone, it was going to be someone that's going to be able to be comfortable with my son, or my son can, be comfortable with her. So it's a challenge to get that, and to me, I just wanted to make sure that was the case.
Makes a lot of sense. Nikki, I know you had a conversation recently. I heard you mention this a little earlier. You had a conversation recently with your father. And that conversation kind of is a good segue from Marcus's conversation. That conversation with your dad was about you accepting the reality that some of the guys that you may date now, or who may be interested in, or you may be interested in, may be older, and how that was kind of shocking for your dad. I want you to kind of talk about that. Was that always your impression? Have older guys always been attracted to you? Have you always had an attraction to older guys? Was it your preference to date guys your age or younger? I just want to see, was that evolution, or was that who you always been?
So, well, thank you for that question. Honestly, it's been something that's always been more attractive to me. I guess you can say I've had an old soul. A lot of the men that I have been involved with have been slightly older than me. I've never dated anyone younger than me. And so I would say the conversation with my dad was just very transparent. I told him, a lot of times nowadays, women in my age category, I'm in my 30s, are having to, I'd say, compete with these very young 20-year-olds who the men in their 30s are looking at it these days. I was told recently by a guy, he said, you only have about 2 more years left, and then your eggs are going to dry up, and no man in their 30s is going to want you anymore, so you need to stop being so picky. And I laughed because I thought that was a ridiculous statement. But ultimately, what he was telling me is that, because I am still in my early 30s, I can perhaps still have an opportunity to have children, and that's what he was thinking about, because by 40 he's going to be ready to settle down, and he doesn't want an older woman. And so what that led me to believe, and what I have actually seen and experienced, is that men 40 and up tend to want a woman in their 30s, and that is really starting to become a trend that I'm recognizing and accepting.
So this guy was in his 30s, and he told you that you're going to have a couple more years. So is that because he's trying to put pressure on you because he's trying to date you? Well, where's it out? I mean, I think that's
it's not working. Yeah, it's not working. But he's going to be 40 this year. And it's interesting because he feels as if he has all the time in the world, and that I need to be pressured to make a decision on whether or not, I want to settle down. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be forced into that scenario, especially not by him anyway. So, but I think it's still a trend. It's still something that, he's almost 40. He's 6 years older than I am. And so even then, it's men in his age category, 42, 44, 45. Those are that's the age range of men that I tend to see coming my way. It's not the 30-year-olds.
So a guy who's trying to date you tells you stop being so picky because you only have 2 years worth of your eggs
before my eggs dry. That is correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's what's out here, Pastor. I just want to. That's a different conversation.
Yeah. Well, I've been married 25 years, so I don't really know how those conversations are supposed to go like that when you're a single man trying to date a woman. But that's since we're on a Christian platform, let me just say that's a very lame way to try to connect with a young woman by that type of pressure tactic. So let me ask you this question then. So is it, because I know you like Natalie Cole and some of your music choices, so you think that the reason why you attract people is because you have an older soul, because you have a lower tolerance level for stuff, or is because you've traveled more, you've seen more in terms of your upbringing? What do you attribute it to? Because that's shocking to me, because I would have thought that you are an equal opportunity attractor.
Well, I would say the men in my age range, what I found, especially when I was in Atlanta, a lot of guys, I've literally had guys ask me out. I've gone out. One time I went to breakfast with someone, and by the end of the day, he was asking me if I could introduce him to a person on my board of directors for the organization I worked for. And that's the type of person that I kept running into, and he was in my age range. It's more of a career upward mobility opportunity. I see your network, I see the places you go, and Marcus, I'm sure it gets to be the same way. I mean, I see Marcus have a lot of stuff when I was in Atlanta. So people see you, they have assumptions, they make assumptions, and they think that you can give them access to whatever it is when they're not recognizing this is work. This isn't fun for me. This is work. I have to get a job done. And so I tend to find that men who are a little bit older are more established, they're more secure, they're more confident in themselves, and they're not driven by who you know and where you're going. And so that has tended to work out a little bit better for me.
Yeah, you're correct about that.
You know, Deidre, I want to, would you agree with that, Marcus?
Yes, because sometimes when I be working, out in the red carpets, I meet ladies, but then sometimes these ladies, I be thinking they're interested in me and want to talk to me, but they want to get access. They want to, be part of what I do. And, I had one young lady that went out with me, and I told her she can come with me. And I said, well, you got to watch my bags if you're going to come. So you come as an assistant. Well, she kind of went away from my bags and started mingling with other people, and just, it's not right.
Wow.
But yeah, you got to be real selective. Yeah.
Exactly.
Deidre, I want to ask you a question because I think it's kind of relevant. It's kind of similar to both Marcus and Nikki, but a little different. You work in sales. You eat because you are one of the top salespersons in the entire Chanel organization. I mean, your resume is extensive. You won this award, after this award. You and I have talked, prayed with you as you've traveled to different places for workshops and sales, and so you work in the mall. We talk about Perimeter Mall, Phipps Plaza, all day long. But men are frequenting your workspace. How has that impacted your dating life in Atlanta? What you do and where you work? Has it been positive or has it been negative in terms of you meeting people relationally?
Oh boy. Well, I've learned that just talking with a lot of guys, I am a very focus driven young lady. So when I work, I work. Now there are moments where I do have, opportunities to talk, I'm around all types of people all the time. But a lot of the conversations have not been, always on the up and up or what have you, but I am a very focus driven person. And I would say that, instead of, I would say intimidation, there is a lot of respect for me because I do work really hard in the workplace, and when they do see that I'm very focused the way that I am, it's like my coworkers already know Miss D is in beast mode, don't bother her. So sometimes I am so focused that it can almost be offensive. So you don't mean to be offensive, but it's just that I like to do my job with excellence. And but I have come across, meeting several different guys, and they say, you just look like you do not play at all. So I think too, we were talking earlier as I was talking to the other panel. I'll be 50 in 4 years. So by, you're at that point where, it's okay to have fun and it's okay to date and, give him space to date different people and me, that space to date different people as well. But if you're, wanting to come together and take it to the next level to a commitment, then it's like, okay, are you serious? Because I think it's important to be compatible, which allows also understanding, because I have a hectic schedule. So if you have a really busy, hectic schedule, you will also be understanding on my end.
Makes a lot of sense, and I'm gonna come back because there's some more meat on that bone. I want to get off that because I'm just seeing how things are connected. I'm gonna come back to that in a moment, but thanks for sharing that. Ron, I want to ask you a question because I know that I saw you when you married, when you started dating years ago, and that relationship went to another level and you got married. And unfortunately, sometimes relationships don't work. It can be two great people. Sometimes they don't work together. But I saw you be I saw you extremely broken when that marriage didn't work. And I'm seeing you now, and we've talked over the years, and I've seen you express interest, in dating. But I don't know if you were ready. We never had that conversation. But I've seen you go from being married, being very serious about that marriage, being in love, unfortunately marriage ending, being broken, being hurt, wanting to date, but still not willing to be open. I want to get into that. Marcus talked about his son. His son was 2 when he got divorced. Now he's working on his PhD. I want to ask you that. How have you navigated, Ron, coming out of the pain of divorce, being interested in engaging in another relationship, but now to the point where I think you are serious about being in a relationship, to the point where where you're considering marriage again. How has that process been? I want to hear your journey from being married, being in love, being broken, trying to trust again, and now getting to a point where I think you're ready to be married. Would you talk
Okay.
about that, please?
Okay. Well, when I got married, I was in my mid-20s. And one thing I realized about marriage is all about maturity. I can safely say, 20 plus years later, that I wasn't at that mature stage. My relationship with God wasn't to that point where I could trust Him with my marriage. And I married someone a little bit older than I was, who understand the areas of marriage where I didn't understand the foundation of marriage. Um, there was a lot of lack of communication. There wasn't, and in so many cases, it was a very little trust in that marriage as well. So as the marriage went downward, I still try to make it work, but it didn't happen. Once the marriage went to that divorce level, I did a lot of soul searching. I got a better relationship with God. I was able to realize that I got to be able to communicate effectively. I got to be able to take criticism, constructive criticism. I have to be able to listen, and that's a key thing. That's why that's why at this point now, that listening, which is a very important part of communication, I got to be able to make sure that I have to listen to that individual, make sure I understand her needs, or that individual understand my needs. I think it's got to be to a point where I have to realize that me and the next party have to be on the same page. Because you're asking two different individuals to come together or make an attempt to come together. And that's not always easier said than done. But I think if you communicate effectively, which I'm seeing more of now with me as far as being able to talk more about the situation. Because I can't just hold things in. And I think that's one of my biggest problems, holding stuff in. And if I don't communicate, if I don't let people know what's on my mind, or then people always have a big misconception. So that's why I realized that when I first started, as far as marriage, there was no communication. Now I see that I have to be able to communicate. And that's why I believe truly in my heart that the next relationship is going to be something just totally different from my first marriage. Because I know that there's a lot of work still to be done, but I'm not where I used to be. So, but I do feel comfortable enough to know that if the relationship presents itself to me, that I can truly be a part of that relationship in a strong manner. So,
Let me ask you this question, Ron, because I've heard many guys say this, and I've heard many ladies say it. And I want to ask you this question. What do you say to the person who says, if I've been married one time and I got divorced that first time, once I got that first time, I promise I'll never do that again. What is your response to the people who are watching right now? Those are the grown and sexy audience who've been divorced, and they say, listen, right there, this guy is a handsome guy, Dr. Lester. This guy got his act together. He's a school teacher, got his own house, doing well. He's gonna be retiring, almost a 30-year educator, in his 40s, still has life, but he's talking about marriage. No, I'll never do that again. What do you say to the person who says, I will never get married again? What is your response to them?
well, Pastor, this is how I feel. This is me being honest. I think It's not everybody's page to be married. Some people like that lifestyle of just being single, being able to go do whatever they want to do, not being the answer to anyone. And hey, and I kid you not, I had got to that point where I don't be married anymore. That I love being with me. But one thing you realize, like during this pandemic season, yeah, you can work all you want to, but there's still something missing. You know, you want that companionship. You want that somebody to talk to, because there's only so much texting you can do. There's only so much people you can try to talk to, or force yourself on themselves. So you do miss that companionship. That's important, because you do need that human touch. So in more ways than one. So I understand some people who love being single. I like being single too, but I know I like that companionship as well. So I can tell them that, hey, it's good out there to a degree, because trust me, as you get older, there's only so much you can do. Traveling to Vegas, traveling to New York, traveling to California, you know, I love to enjoy traveling, but at a certain point, that traveling by yourself is a joke. So I love to travel, but you want to spend that quality time you're not going to be able to get back. You want to enjoy it with somebody. You get tired of taking selfies by yourself. You know, you want to take selfies with somebody. You know, so you want to enjoy yourself with other people. You want to say, hey, you want to go to Niagara Falls and enjoy the falls with somebody, not enjoy the falls by yourself. Trust me, I know. So,
Gotcha. Marcus, I want to ask you this question, kind of piggyback off of Nikki a little bit, because you work with everybody. I've seen you do contracts for celebrities. I've seen you take pictures for millennials. I've seen you take pictures for senior citizens. What is life like you as a single father with a son, you know, working on his PhD at the University of Chicago, that you seem to be very diverse in terms of who you work with, who you appeal to? Is there a particular person or age group that you're attracted to, or a particular age group that you have felt attraction coming from? What's that process?
Oh boy, that is funny you say that, because I won't say I have a wide range of age group, but I will go as low as mid 30s. You know, I am 50 right now, but I give myself at least 10 years, but I have dated young ladies under 40 years old. But I'm comfortable with someone that's going to, you know, love me or like me, as I want to be Team Marcus, right? So, but I've been married twice, and I do want to get married again, and I do want to meet that special young lady that's going to have that good companionship with me and enjoy different things. And I am at that age where I do want to settle down. So, but I date, you know, a wide range of ages. I mean, not under 30, but, you know, as young as 35, I believe. So, but sometimes people would say, I don't even look that age. And then they, you know, they okay with talking to me until they figure out, oh, you 50? Okay. I didn't know. So, but they're still comfortable with hanging out with me still. So, I mean, if I was looking older, maybe it's different, but maybe because of, you know, I don't look as old. But yeah, I have that nice little range.
So let me ask you this question, Marcus. I asked the question to Ron. I'm asking you.
Okay.
Ron's been married once, and it was painful for him when he ended. And now, as I said through my observations, and even he confirmed it tonight, Ron wants to be married again. I think he will be married again. You've been married twice, and
Yes.
I know that there are guys out there and some ladies out there who, if they've been married twice and it didn't work, there's no way in Hades they consider getting married the third time. What made you get to that point, and how did you grow through those marriages, both of them? You know, and what made you get to the point now? Or do you want to be married again? If so, how is this Marcus? How will this third husband be different from the first two, or will it be the same?
Well, I think it will be different because I learned from the two marriages. The first marriage I got married when I was 22, so it was short-lived. It was only 3 years. And I think I was young and immature. And I think, I mean, it could have worked, but it's a challenge when you're young like that. And then my second marriage, it was more or less, I don't know if I was ready for that second marriage, but she is the father of my son. I mean, she's the mother of my son. So, and I'm good with that. But we was, that marriage only lasted 3 years as well. It was short lived, but I think right now is learning, going through the dating process and been through those two marriages. I think I need to give and take. And sometimes you have to look at yourself and say, those failed marriages is probably because of not just me, but both of us. But I can't blame the other person. So, but I do see myself, getting into a third marriage, and hopefully it's the final, because that will be my final. I'm not trying to get married and get a divorce. And that was the whole situation of being with my son and not really trying to, get into a marriage quickly, because I probably could have got married, third time, believe it or not, my ex-wife got married more times than me. So she's on her fifth, so, but she seems happy, but it's a challenge, and I want to make sure my third is right. So.
And I realized
That's
one thing
great.
about that.
Nikki, so go ahead, Ron.
I was going to say, and one thing about it in this dating is very difficult, as it is, because there's so many different avenues we can go on, but it's just, but you always try to find the right mission. It's not always there, because because people always tell you, what about the church? They always throw that at you. Well, the church, it's a different mentality, because you're not going to come after the service and say, "Hey, that was a great sermon. So what are you doing tomorrow night?" So and in so many cases, there's not much difference between the church and the club, especially in some of the women. So it's a challenge dating. That's why a lot of times you got to. Those are different avenues. Online dating is a different avenue. Especially with social media like it is, so it's a challenge in dating though. That's why a lot of times it's a process in trying to find that right individual.
I'm gonna come back to that in a moment. Thanks for sharing that. Nikki, you said you're a mature soul, and you had that conversation with your dad, and you've been talking to an extremely lame guy who's trying to use age on you.
This was a while back.
Oh, okay. That's
this has been a while.
We're not going.
It's not recent.
But let me ask you this question: what do you feel pressure? Do you feel pressure? You're in your 30s. Wanting to be a mother. Have you ever thought? Because I think it's a very important issue. Have you ever thought about? I want to have children, and Mr. Right, in terms of getting with him and spending my life with him, has not yet happened. What do you say to the young lady who says, and I've had this asked of me several times, Pastor, I want to have a child, and I'm not married. What are your thoughts on me having a child, and I'm not married? Whether it be through, artificial insemination or whatever else, What are your thoughts on the person who's watching right now, the ladies who watch it right now, and they ask the question all the time? I want to get married. I'm in my 30s. I'm mid-30s, and my mother is alive, and my grandmother wants grandchildren and great grands. What do you say to that woman who's stable in her career, who can take care of a child by herself, and doesn't need a husband to do it?
Yeah.
And they think about going and having a procedure to get pregnant. What are your thoughts on that? What do you say to that person? Because there are some who are watching who are in that demographic.
Well, I think that's a personal decision. I think that you have to ask yourself a couple of very important questions. One being, are you financially stable enough? Because much like marriage, having a child is a financial commitment. And if you are not committed to the financial aspect of what it means to raise a child, rear a child, being able to give that little person the sun, the moon, and the stars, then I think you probably need to rethink that decision. There's also the component of your village, your circle, the people around you being able to be a support system, because you can't raise the child on your own. And so I fully endorse support women who want to raise children on their own. I know plenty of women who have, and quite honestly, a lot of women in my age range right now are freezing their eggs. I have quite a few girlfriends who have frozen their eggs, and they are preparing to have children later in life. And they have made the decision, if it happens on my own, it happens on my own. But I do believe that you've got to be a little bit more forward thinking, and not just about the here and now and thinking about yourself. Oh, I want a child. But you need to ask yourself, am I able to give this child the life that he or she deserves? And that's from a financial standpoint. That's from a time commitment standpoint. That's from a for example, if you have a son, having men in this young man's life who can help build him up as a young man. I think it's very important to ask yourself all of those questions. I mean, I'm thinking about myself in terms of retirement. You know, COVID-19 has you thinking differently, and I'm looking at my financial situation and talking to my financial planner, and I'm like, man, I know I still have decades left to work, but you know, I'm starting to think, well, what if I end up having to do this retirement thing on my own? I don't have a 2-person income. So I think it's important to start thinking about those things, but you've got to be mindful about how the decisions that you make now impact those around you in the future. And so I fully endorse a woman who is able and capable. Maybe you can get a nanny, maybe you have a lot of good friends, but friends ain't always going to be consistent. Family's not always going to be available. And so you need to be thinking about not just yourself and the desire to have a child in your life, but is that child going to have the best life he or she can possibly have? So power to you, my sister, but don't do it just for you.
Yeah. Do you feel any pressure that you've gotta have children by 36 or 37? The guy needs to come along so I can have these kids. Have you felt that? Or felt it from your parents?
To feel that. Oh yeah, absolutely. I absolutely feel it from my parents. My sister just got a puppy, thinking that the puppy would fulfill this desire that my parents have, because there are 3 girls in my household, but we're all pursuing different things. My sister is pursuing her acting career. She's not looking to have, children and settle down right now. My other sister's in residency. She's a doctor. She doesn't have, and in the military. So she's not really thinking about it, and I'm still figuring it out. And so as much as we desire in our hearts and we want and know that God is going to bring that man into our lives, we are just not in the position right now. I don't think, for me, it would be a responsible decision to make. I still got to figure this dating thing out before I can bring a child into the world. I know my mama wants grandkids, but I go pick kids up and bring them over to her house on a regular so she can get her fix. Because I'm just not quite there yet, but I definitely feel that pressure. I definitely get the pressure.
Wow. Deidre, I know you are from Vincent, Alabama, so you're Southern Belle, and Alabama State, Montgomery, Atlanta. And Ron talked about this whole traditional aspect of dating, how it's different now than it was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, in terms of the rise of social media, etc. And you are a self-proclaimed traditionalist too, in terms of dating and marriage. And you don't believe in really looking for a guy. How do you feel about the pressure of being married? Do you feel pressure to be married? And because I'm gonna come back and ask you another question later, Deidre, but how do you feel? Do you feel pressure to be married?
I've always been secure in myself. And so in fact, growing up in Alabama, my great grandmother, she was 4'11", this really short, just cute lady, but she was hilarious. And she would tell us, before you're 25, you can get whoever you want, but after 25, you have to take whoever you can get. So we, that was just a comical joke that she would have, because, when we were watching like our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, and our ancestors before, we watched them, get married, or we heard the stories, I would say, of them getting married at 15 and 16 and having 10 kids, 15 kids. Well, now it's a new day, and I've always been strong to not feel insecure because I wasn't married at a certain age, or I didn't have children at a certain age, and I didn't feel like anything was wrong with me. So I just had that security within myself, and not to feel pressured by the community, by family, by society. And I was like, for me, my thing was like, God knows the best timing for everything. So I never put that type of pressure on myself. However, if I were to get married, I'll be a great wife. And if I were to have children, I would be a great mother. But I end up, a week after my 40th birthday, I end up having to have a hysterectomy. So, and I was talking to my mom about it. This was back in 2014, and I said, Mom, I've with clients and different people that really desire to have children, and I respect that because I love children with all of my heart. I mean, I do have a heart for children, and I was telling her, I said, I wasn't depressed or hurt of the fact that I'm not able to have children. And, being the old mother she is, she's like, no, you're not if it's going to save your life. So you're okay. So you have nieces and nephews, and you can embrace them. And the good part about it is that you can love them and give them back. So, but, I've never really felt that type of pressure, and I just feel like that God has a timing for everything. And I've had several of my friends and colleagues, they succumb to the pressure of family members, and they got married very early, and they end up being miserable in their marriages because they just felt like they had to be married by 25 or 30, but yet they're living a very miserable life. And so here they are now, they're looking at me like, you have the good life, you don't have to hide bags in your trunk, you can go when you want to, catch a flight when you want to. So, and don't get me wrong, you are human. Like the young man was saying, you're human. You do have your moments, but for the most part, I do embrace my singleness, and I'm enjoying every moment of it. I'm in a very, very good place. I'm very happy. And so all singles are not depressed. No, because I'm very occupied for me. So I'm very busy with my career, and this is my season for me to be very aggressive with my career, which has kept me very occupied and busy.
I'm glad you said that, and that's so wonderful, and that's absolutely my observation about you and Nikki. There's some similarities there because one of the things I noticed with both of you, as ladies on the platform, both of you never stop. Both of you are always busy. You're always doing something. You're always going somewhere. So my question is, so if a guy, whether he be a prospect or a lame guy, like the guy who gave Nikki that foolishness, when are you guys ever available for somebody to make an overture, or when are you ever free? I mean, because Deidre, and you and Nikki, both of you have this professionals, and Nikki may be a little more, I guess because I've been around her more to see her interact with more people, but Deidre, you're always straightforward, you're always no nonsense, and I think that's the same thing with Nikki. But Nikki, when are you available for a young man to shoot a shot? I mean, how do you have time to shoot a shot? And the basket is never around for the shot to be shot.
See, I do believe people make time for who they want to make time for, and
That's
I'm
true.
one of those
That's
people. I am truly one of those people.
That's so true.
Everybody's busy. You can find things to occupy every minute of the day, but the thing is, it's about prioritizing and making sure that you are managing appropriately. And so if I'm dating somebody, or if I'm interested in dating somebody, I'm going to make time for that individual, and I'm going to shift some things around where I might, Marcus said the person, you took them to the event at work. I may not be able to do that, but maybe I don't do the stuff after work and I go and we hang out and do something. Or maybe it's, you just make time in those moments that you can, and you make the best of those times. You create that quality space for the person. But I think, I've also been told, I'm getting some bad feedback from men, but I've also been told that no man wants a woman who's just so busy all the time. Well, then that means it's not going to be for me. I completely understand that. I completely appreciate the fact that you've got to be able to turn off at some point. That's just with anybody, whether it's dating, friendships, family. I think you've got to be able to push pause or press reset daily or weekly, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I am going to be who I'm going to be. I am willing to make accommodations. I'm willing to make time, but I'm an ambitious person, and the person that I want to have come into my life, I don't want them to stifle my ambition. I want them to build me up, and I will do the same. I think it's about that give and take. It's about being a partner. And so some days it may be that I need you to give 70% and I'm only able to give 30, but you know what? By Wednesday, I'll be back and I can give you 80% so you can just settle and do 20. And so I think that there's a give and take, but it's an understanding that two people have to have in the beginning. But don't expect to meet me as an ambitious person and then get a year later and expect me not to be that person anymore, because that's not going to happen.
Deidre, one other question on that same topic. You're serious. You're busy. You work all the time. When are you ever available?
Like she said, you find time for, if you do feel that sense of connection, you will find that time. And I've really kind of laid myself some goals of balance to say, okay, you can't do it all the time. And if I'm focusing on, okay, I want to focus on producing $1 million for this quarter or this year, I'm so focused on that. But however, I had to say, okay, step away. Let's go to a Hawks game. Let's go to a movie. Let's go to a Falcons game. Let's go, to a different restaurant. So and even a lot of times I will do it, just maybe after my shift after work. Because when I'm off those 2 days, Pastor, a lot of times I'm just drained. I just want to sleep. You have people pulling on you left and right all the time. So you do also have to find that time to replenish yourself while you're also giving to others. So you do find the time when you do feel that there is a connection. And for me, that time, could be just after my work shift, or, that would work, that works easier for me. But I'm doing a lot better when it comes to balance. I've had to really, really work on that, the balance issue. So I'm a lot better now.
And Pastor, can I add to, I think, I was going to say the other thing is being creative in 2020 about how you're dating somebody. I mean, it may not always be this traditional, we got to get dressed up. We all need to work out. Let's go for a walk in the park, or go jogging, or go do something that's productive. If you can incorporate each other into your daily routine somehow, I don't see how that can't be a part of building that quality relationship as well.
Also, here's the thing here's a crazy thing that sounds weird, but actually have an actual conversation. Stop all this texting and actually just talk to somebody on the phone. Get to know that person, because we could text all day, but we can always have a misconception when it comes to texting. Just actually have a phone conversation. That's simply to be so old, but it still works, because trust me, you can still get them, especially in this pandemic, where you can still talk to somebody and get to know that individual. See, a lot of times we have thrown that concept out the window when we're so busy, all we do is text. And I can't tell you time and time again when somebody say, I text too much. Well, it's not necessarily I'm trying to text too much. You won't pick up the phone and talk. So You can't be that busy when you can't actually have a conversation. And maybe because I'm getting up there in age, but I still like to talk on the phone. So that's a lost art, and I don't know why people men and women won't do more of that.
Yeah.
And put the phones away at the dinner table.
Right.
That's so true.
That's all
Let
right.
me ask you a
Pastor,
question, Marcus. I want to ask. Go ahead, Deidre. Yes.
if I may say too, Pastor, I am a very hilarious. A lot of people didn't realize this about me. I'm a very hilarious person. People think I am serious all the time, but when I am in that business zone, I am like there. But I am the most hilarious, fun person you'll ever meet. So sometimes I am misunderstood to just think that I'm just this, just straightforward. But sometimes I do let my guards down and have a lot of fun.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Marcus, let me ask you this question. We're juxtaposing this, traditional versus contemporary dating. I'll start with you. What's have you ever been involved with this online dating piece? And because people ask me all the time, Christian dating, all kind of online dating platforms. Marcus, have you experienced that? If so, what's been your experience with that?
Well, I haven't experienced any online dating. I just don't think online dating is for me because I'm able to meet so many people, or I meet the ladies. I meet so many in different aspects of my events and work and all of that. So I don't have a problem meeting. So that's why I don't do the online dating. But I guess the online dating is a good thing because you're kind of getting that connection together. And sometimes it's kind of hard to get that when you're meeting new people. And then you can just weed your folks out. But I just never got involved in the online dating.
Good. Ron?
I have, and it's like what Marcus said. You have to weed it out, and I've been through a few of them. Matter of fact, and it's a process. It is because especially because like one agency had us make sure that we don't send any pictures to each other. I'm kind of hard headed. I want a picture. I mean, yeah, you can't be superficial, and you gotta take the person at their heart, and that sounds cute, but I want to know how you look. So, and we can get through all other stuff, but I know I gotta get and I think the person normally they want to send a picture. Now, once they send a picture, sometimes it's a good meet. Other times, kind of delete that person. So, am I superficial? Anyway, but I think it's hit or miss. It really is hit or miss because you may get that one, and you may have to talk a little bit, but it's a process. It is a process. It's a funny process, and I haven't done it in a while though, so that's probably why I've done it in a while. So,
Nick, what about you?
I have done online dating before. I've been on dates and things of that nature. It's just not something that I'm interested in. It's not consistent enough, and it requires way too much time and effort. There's a lot of conversations that you have to have before you even get to the place of really wanting to meet somebody. And so the commitment of time that I already don't really want to give to other people in that format right now, I don't know. It just has not worked out for me. But I have friends who are married from online dating. I have met some really incredible people from online dating, like just good people in general. But I will say it's not something that I'm a fan of in this day and age. It's interesting just to see the dynamics of online dating nowadays because the filters have changed. And they change from different platforms. Like some of them will say, I don't want kids at all. And so you know how to weed people. I mean, it gets so specific nowadays to where the qualities of life that you are looking for, the qualities in a person that you're looking for, you can really narrow down to that exact person and see if they meet that criteria. But at the end of the day, people can sign up, say anything. One of the big ones for me, though, Pastor, being that this is a Christian platform, is that Christianity focus. You know, there are some platforms that allow you to say whether you are, Christian, atheist, spiritual, agnostic, all of that. And I think for me, a charge of my character and faith is just seeing how many people are willing to profess that they are actually Christian. And so those guys have historically made it to the top of my list, whereas those who just say, oh, I'm just spiritual or, whatever, I'm like, all right, you go to church on Mother's Day. So, it's just, you just kind of, I don't know. There's a part of me that still thinks I'm going to go in the grocery store and someone's going to help me pick out a cantaloupe. I'm serious. I just really think that could still happen. I don't know. I just think it could still happen.
Absolutely.
Wishful thinking, huh?
What about you, Deidre? Have you done it, Deidre?
No, I'm not a fan of online dating. And to piggyback off of Nikki, I just believe in the organic traditional role. And I just believe that, when it's the time, fate has its way of bringing you together. And I just believe in staying in my place as a woman because the man, he sees you. I just believe that he sees you where you're at. So just stay in your place as a lady. And I have some friends and colleagues, they love the matchmaking game. I've never been a fan of that. I don't have any disrespect for others that do. That's your way. But for me, I just don't like that type of approach to make it appear as though you're desperate or, kind of like that. I just have never, ever liked that. But I just believe, just staying in your place as a lady, doing your job, being poised, just carrying yourself like a lady, and he will approach you. That's just the way I feel.
So I will piggyback off of that.
Yeah.
I will just piggyback off of that. I am not shy about letting people know that I am open to dating. I do feel like, closed mouths don't get fed in that certain circumstance. I think that there's a way to do it without coming across as if you're desperate. And I tend to talk to particularly guy friends or my friends who are married to say, I know y'all got some friends. I do have several girlfriends who that's happened with, where they've talked to their guy friends. They're like, hey, we got one good brother left, and that's it. And it's worked out. I've got one really good girlfriend. It worked out. They're married now. They've been married for several years now, because she took a chance, asked a group of friends and just said, hey, I'm open to dating. I'm looking to settle down. And do you know anybody? And so, and it's not in a form of, I'm just so ready, anxious, that type of thing, but more so I am open to this, and I just want to make it known to people around me so that as you're out and about, you may meet somebody that you think I might be compatible with. So, yeah.
But Pastor, this is what I realized though. In the process of dating or trying to find somebody, it shouldn't be like work. I mean, because because for me, it's always, I always hear, I got so much on my plate, and I don't want to be that added hors d'oeuvre on your plate when you have so much stuff going on. So that's why a lot of times you kind of back off, and you see the overall how much work it's going to take. It all depends on how much you really want to put into it, and vice versa. Because dating shouldn't be a work process, but in 2020. It seemed to be a work process. And a lot of times I work at work. I don't want to work on dating. I want to put forth that effort to get to know that individual, but it shouldn't be a work process. So that's why a lot of times, a lot of people would rather be by themselves and then go through that headache or that dating process, because I don't want to work. I want to work at work. I don't want to work on a relationship. And I don't mean that as far as I don't want to put forth no effort, but in trying to get to know someone. And of course, you tell me, if you call me on the weekend, I'm ready. Call you on the weekend. I mean, I understand your schedule. Everybody got a schedule, but I'm not going to wait till the weekend to call you. I mean, if you show any form of interest, that's fine. But to say that, to tell me on a Monday to call you on the weekend because that's why I'm on time available, I respect that. but you won't get no call from me.
It's so funny you say that,
Give us some
Ron.
time.
Because you sometimes you have. I had a lady friend. She said that's all she do is text. She don't even call on the phone. So, like you say, the art of communication is gone.
Yeah.
that's so true. Let me say this final word. When I look at you four and just how you've climbed the ladders in your particular careers and found measures of success. All of you are successful in your professions. Highly regarded, very respected. Very measured, very grounded, very focused. Incredible hearts, every one of you. You know, it's an amazing thing. It's like all of you in a good, healthy place. All of you always bring a certain energy, and a certain vibe. Sometimes I guess we call it, the spirit of a person, but you know what I mean. Just colloquially, you guys bring good vibes and good energies wherever you go, and it's a beautiful thing. As you navigate singleness and singlehood, and I just appreciate it because I think you're exemplary human beings, and I thank you for the example you set. So I want to close out. I want you to all to give one word of advice, one word of wisdom to the singles who are watching from your perspective about how you made it, how you maintained it during this time. Just a word of encouragement. So I'm going to start with Deidre and then go to Nikki and then go to each one of you. So I want you to give a word of encouragement to the others in this growing sexy demographic. How you're making, how you find the peace, how you maintaining the peace. So I'm going to start with you, Deidre.
Well, first, Pastor, I want to say thank you to you and Lady Andrea and the team and everybody that's worked so hard behind the scenes to keep us encouraged and informed. So just know that all of the hard work that you're doing is just appreciated. And so for me during this pandemic, it's been a lot of great rest. It's actually been a lot of productive time because there were a lot of projects that I needed to work on here within the home. So I've been able to work on a lot of projects here, focus on some business ideas for the future. My relationship with God, my prayer time has definitely been increased, just talking to him. So he has a way of as you preached one time, reintroducing himself, because had you told us back in December as we were enjoying our families 90 days later or 3 or 4 months later that the world would be shut down, nobody would believe you. But, during this time, it's great to focus on who you are and embrace yourself and just try to keep yourself busy, stay in contact with others. And I was sharing with Benton on yesterday that I use a lot of the segments as my timer for walking. So I'll walk now for about 50 minutes to an hour, and I feel so much better. I have so much better clarity. I sleep better. My whole body just feels a lot better. So from a lot of these segments that are coming on, I'll say, okay, from start to end, I'll just walk for one whole hour, and I'll walk in our development, and I'm just feeling a lot better. So just learning to know that God is going to take care of you. Have no fear. Of course, these are uncertain times, but he promised to never leave us nor forsake us. So just embrace who you are and, just hold to his unchanging hand.
Outstanding. Marcus, one word of encouragement to all the grown and sexy folks who are watching. What would you say to them?
All right. I would say because I'm enjoying this time myself because I'm still working from home, but the photography I'm not doing as much, so I am getting caught up with a lot of things. And I would say that one word would be next. What's next? And I'm looking forward to when we get back into the new norm. I'm ready for it. So that's what I'm doing in my peace time.
Get ready for next. Nikki, a word of encouragement to the singles. You in a good place. What would that word of encouragement be?
Well, first I'll say thank you, Pastor, for this platform again. Really, truly appreciate all the work that the church is doing to keep people motivated and inspired during this very uncertain time. But the word of advice that I would give is just stay the course. Trust God, trust the process, and trust yourself. Stay true to who you are, and just continue to know that the desires of your heart will be fulfilled. So that's what I would tell people.
Outstanding, outstanding. All right, Deacon Ron, Dr. Lester, one last word of encouragement for those grown and sexy singles who are watching. What would that word of encouragement be, sir?
Well, first of all, Pastor, I'd like to thank you and the panel and all the great team that you have for setting this up. Another wonderful, great show. It's been truly, it's been more of a learning experience for me because I'm learning to listen to more individuals. But I think I have to go through something that, I've heard you say time and time again. Of course, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all righteousness and all things should be added unto you. But for the singles, have a plan. Lay out your plan. Right now, what you want to do now is, if you're really interested and want to be with someone, or even if you're just still loving you, lay out your plan. Lay out your purpose. What's your perspective on items? What's out there that you want to seek? What's out there that you want to explore? Lay out your plan. Have a purpose. Be persistent. Lay out your whole perspective in life itself and what you want to achieve and what you want to go on to the next level. Because there's so many different, there's so much, there's a wonderful world out there for you to achieve, for you to have, and for you to obtain.
Outstanding. This has been so resourceful, and the beautiful thing about it is this show was designated just for grown and sexy singles over 40. But amazingly, I've heard from senior citizens who are married. I've heard from singles in their 20s about how impactful the principles that you guys and your experiences have been a blessing. So just thank you so much for considering to come. Thank you for sharing. It was a great opportunity. I was blessed by the dialogue and the exchange, and I appreciate each one of you for being a part. Deidre, Marcus, Nikki, and you, Ron. Thank you so very much. And to all of our
Thank
viewers
you.
who've been watching this episode
Thank
of
you.
Grown and Sexy, I hope you've been inspired. You heard a lot of great comments, a lot of great advice, a lot of great experiences that we can glean from. It's been said that a fool learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes and the experiences of others. And you heard a lot of wisdom here, a lot of experiences been shared. I hope you glean from it, that we all can be better. My friends, you've been watching this segment of Grown and Sexy by the Hope TV. Hope you've been empowered. Please know we're going to get through this one step at a time. And if God be for you, who can be against you? As always, remember this: if you'll be good to God, God will be good to you. You've been watching the Hope TV, Grown and Sexy. Until next time, peace.